All right, welcome back to another big time episode of the Role Players Fantasy Voyage. Oh, yeah. As always, I'm your host, Byron, along with my co host, the philosophical none other than Mr. Know It All, Jay. How are you on this fantasy just whirlwind week, man? How are you?
Wow. Well, I've been taking some lumps in fantasy football, and even in my John Madden, I've been taking lumps, man. I've been taking lumps everywhere, and I'm ready. I'm ready to move forward. I'm ready to get back in winners row Monday.
Oh, I don't know if you're cut out for Winners Monday, man. I don't know. But what I do know that you're cut out for is this podcast. If you're listening, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend that we are on several platforms from Apple Podcasts to Google Podcasts and Spreaker, home of the role players, as well as many other podcast platforms. Shoot us a tweet, Instagram us, Facebook us. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at @TheRoll_players. That's where we're at. Don't forget it. So let's go ahead and get into this fantasy outlook, man. So last week, just to recap, it was a tad bit off. We had the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Tennessee Titans sitting the week out due to COVID. That it considers to be concerning, especially for us fantasy footballers. But recapping the week really quickly, Dak Prescott, stand up, sir. You had a phenomenal week. Dak Prescott in most standard leagues, or well, I should say maybe PPR leagues, he clipped you from around 35 to 40 points, depending on how you have your points set up. Big time player, big time action. I want to give a big shout out to Joe Mixon, but man, oh man, he had a big week, big week. He had 36.1 points, maybe a little bit more, depending on how your league is set up. And then Odell Beckham Jr., stand up, sir. Another big week from Odell Beckham Jr. I know it may be frustrating to have Odell, but hey, when he shows up, he shows out. And he came in with 30 plus points for the week. He actually had a run to ice the game, but Odell came in with 8 targets on the day. He had 5 receptions, 81 yards, 2 touchdowns. You cannot beat that, man. You can't beat it. And that rushing touchdown and 73 yards rushing. He had a monster day for wide receivers. And then my last guy that I'm going to talk about, Robert Tonyan, with the big day for tight ends. He had a huge day if you had Robert Tonyan. This guy came in with 6 targets, 6 receptions, 98 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That's a monster day for tight ends. If you had him, great. If you did not have him, shame on you. I told you, you got to go claim him. He's probably not available now. But, Jay, who did you have out there with some big weeks, man?
Wow. Well, you have hit on a bunch of the big gamers of the week, but if I gotta go with, I have to go with Robbie Anderson had a pretty good week from the wide receiver position. You also had what's my name? What's the guy's name? Guyton for the Chargers, the young wide receiver. He only had one grab, but he had 75 yards and one six. So he had a pretty decent week as well. So then when you're coming into the round of the circle, uh I don't know how to pronounce his name, so I'm gonna call him Z. OZ from the Atlanta Falcons. On Monday night, he had a pretty big game as well at the wide receiver position. It's something like Zacchaeus. I don't like butchering people names, man, because I wouldn't want someone butchering mine. But he's been butchering fantasy leagues all over. He's probably still available in most of your leagues. Some of your deeper leagues where you have more deeper roster, your dynasty leagues, he may not be available. But this guy for the last 2 weeks, he's last week he had led Atlanta in targets. So if Julio Jones is out, you probably want to go with Zacchaeus again, and he'll be a pretty good flex in guy until maybe Julio gets back. From the running back position, I really don't know. I mean, it was kind of so weak, but the offenses are trending big. So it's a lot of guys that's still floating around that maybe not been great pickups early on in the season, but due to injuries, probably is a big keeper. You got to keep your eye out for the Brandon Ayuk. He's getting a lot of numbers as well down there in San Francisco. So that's pretty much all I got.
Good take, Jay. You really took over and named a lot of those fantasy sleepers that people may be sleeping on. So you better listen to Mr. Know It All. I definitely like the Ayuk pickup. I know I actually traded him in the league, but hey, I got Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert has been tearing it up. So you don't want to miss out on some of those sleepers and some of those big time low key performers that Jay named. And I'm telling you, this is where it all starts. It starts with the game planning for the week. So as you're listening to this, getting ready for Thursday night football, go ahead and set those lineups, man. So we're here to help you set your lineups with a quick flash and a dash while being on the Fantasy Voyage. We're going to look at some 3 up, 3 down. Jay, are you ready?
I'm ready for you, brother.
Let's see how ready you are. You're taking quarterbacks. Go ahead.
So my 3 up and my 3 down now. I'm going to roll with Jimmy G coming back. He'll be back in for the 49ers. He should definitely be. He's not been ruled in yet, but he did practice today. So it's looking like he's trending up. He's going to be up. My other guy's going to be up, but Kyle Allen. Kyle Allen stepped up big time last season for a few games. He's definitely going to be up. They're going against the Rams. The Rams kind of been struggling, limping in a little bit. They snuck a game out against the Jets last week. I believe it was the Jets. They struggled a little bit, but maybe Kyle Allen can get some numbers to Terry McLaurin. He's a big time fantasy guy as well. And then my last guy would be, of course, Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is trending up, man, and he is on a tear. I mean, a TEAR. He's on a tear, brother. And he would be the last for my ones that's up. I'm gonna go down, 3 down. First down will be Nick Foles going up against Tampa. Tampa has been brutal on quarterbacks and running backs so far. He's definitely gonna be down. Chicago really don't have any clue of what they're doing out there. My other down will be if you're looking to flex in a guy for a week and you're struggling because your quarterback is on injury, don't pick up Joe Flacco. No, no, no. Flacco, he's not going to give you too many numbers. Jets are too banged up. They have too many issues going on. And I'm definitely down on Daniel Jones coming into this season. He's really not been faring too well. He's been a little turnover prone. And that's about all I have for my 3 up, 3 downs a quarterback. Why don't you take a crack at it? Why don't you take a deep ball at it, Mr. Quarterback
All
man?
right. Well, I mean, hey, if you're looking for a quarterback from the quarterback whisperer himself, I'd say this is the prime time to play Deshaun Watson. You got to play him. He's no longer under the ruling of Bill O'Brien, the butt chin himself. He is finally going to get free on the Jacksonville horrific Jaguars defense. Oh, it troubles me to say such things, but it's true because we're talking about fantasy. We're not talking about allegiance here. And then one of my downs, I would definitely say sit Carson Wentz. You know why. I don't even have to explain that. So let's move along to running backs. I'm going to take a crack at it, and I'm going to go ahead and go with my three up for Kenyon Drake. They're playing the Jets. This guy can get upwards of 25 points this week. I see a lot of goal line action. The only thing that was scaring me about Kenyon Drake is that Murray may actually take some of those runs down in the red zone. But other than that, I'm giving Drake a green light from the role player himself. Then Joshua Kelly. It's actually a tough matchup, guys. But if you know this Chargers team, you know they don't have a lot of options out there. So I'm going to go ahead and say play Joshua Kelly, especially for you Eckler fans or you Eckler owners. You may actually want to go ahead and play Kelly. I think he can give you somewhere around 12 to 15 points in standard leads. He may touch close to 20, but I'm not quite sure. But I think he's a safe play. And then I'm going with my guy, James Robinson. This guy has been tearing it up, man. The Jaguars, they're what they are. But you can't really trust Gardner Minshew. And the rumblings around the town of Jacksonville has said they're going to move this thing through James Robinson. You can look for James Robinson to be in the passing game, the running game, the catching game, the whatever game they have going on in Jacksonville. I can see him getting anywhere from 18 to 23 points. I think he's going to have a big week, even though it's a big challenge going up against the Texans. Now let's go for some three down. Mark Ingram, have a seat, sir. This Baltimore Ravens offense is just juggling its running backs too much. If you have Mark Ingram, not only can you sit him down, but you may want to look for a trade for Mark Ingram. And then Josh Jacobs. I know Jay has hit on him in the past few weeks, but again, the Raiders just have not had favorable matchups, and they're going up against Kansas City this week. They're going to have to throw the ball. Not quite sure how well Derek Carr will do, or if he'll even find Jacobs in the passing lanes. I'm going to sit that guy down. And then Gordon. Melvin Gordon has to take a seat this week. The Broncos, not sure if Locke is going to play, but I do know the Patriots are going to play. I don't see a lot of running room for Melvin Gordon. I'll stay away from that guy. Jay, what do you have up for me?
We up we up on the what we got, bro? Wide
Yeah.
receivers? Okay, man. So you want my three up on wide receivers. Now I've been struggling in this position in fantasy. That's why I say you want my take on wide receivers. But I'm gonna take it, brother. Because that's what I do. I'm going with Terry McLaurin. Uh I gotta stay home. Debo just got activated last week. I gotta think he's gonna be a part of the game, playing a little bit more coming from the San Francisco 49ers from that aspect. And it's just this COVID thing is kind of throwing me off because I was expecting a big game from Brown and Davis from the Tennessee Titans. So I'm not sure if they're going to be playing. It's looking kind of grim this week. So I'm going to go with Slayton from the Giants. I know I said Daniel Jones was down because Daniel Jones is going to turn the ball over definitely this week. The Giants are trying to get a little bit more wide open, a little bit more spread out. I think Slayton to get you 15 points, 20 points depending which league you in. I'm looking for Debo to have a big game this week, maybe 20 to 25 points as well. And my man Terry McLaurin, he's going to have a huge game this week, 20 to 25 points in some of your leagues, 15 to 20 points. Would you like for me receivers that can't catch a
Oh,
cold right
yeah.
now? Okay, I'm going to hit you with some wide receivers that can't catch a cold. I'm going home, right there, Jacksonville Jaguars. It's time to sit down, Keelan Cole, man. If you're starting Keelan Cole or you've been flexing him in some of the leagues, he's not getting you any points. Him down. Another guy is Hollywood Brown from the Baltimore Ravens. This guy's really trending down, man. He's not really being effective. So, and I'm going with my last one. that would be, I gave him a hard time last week. That would be Emmanuel Sanders, man. I know some of you guys may have been flexing at me and probably thought his numbers would go up, but Traquan Smith, it looked like he's being targeted, the feature target in the New Orleans Saints offense while Thomas is down. I'm down on Emmanuel Sanders. I'm gonna do one of those Brett Favre flickers. I'm a flea flick this to you, B.
Well received, my man. And it's funny you said about Brett Favre because, hey, before we go into tight ends, guys, don't forget that the Lions and the Packers are on bye weeks this week. So if you do have Tunyon, he's a no go. Okay. So let's take a look at these tight ends that are available. Eric Ebron, I believe he can have a big week against the Philadelphia Eagles. I think this guy can finally get into the teens. He might even get into the 20s. I know that's asking a lot, but I see them using Eric Ebron a lot more as the season settles in. I think he can have a big day with a couple touchdowns that already get him into the 12 and the teens. So you definitely want to look at Eric Ebron. I'm going to use a combo right here. I want to say go ahead and play Jonnu Smith, but beware. He may be out due to COVID. If he's out due to COVID, I'm going to use my backup 3 up, 3 down as Hunter Henry. This Chargers team, I know that I say it may be a tough matchup, but Herbert is throwing the ball well. And one of his safety valves and one of his safety nets is Hunter Henry. I can see him having a big day. He may get 10 plus points. I don't think he'll get close to 20, but he'll definitely be somewhere around 10 or the teens. And then let's look at Ertz for the Eagles. This may just be a tight end game for both teams. Tight ends have been actually plentiful this season. I think Ertz can be the guy for Carson Wentz. He has to get back grounded. And who else but to look to in Ertz? They don't have a lot of receiving options out there in Philly right now, and it's Ertz or nothing. Like the Nerf or nothing commercials. You remember those? Yeah, taking it back. But it's Ertz or nothing, man. So I expect him to have a good day. Now, the guys who are not going to have good days, and I know you guys flock to him. I know you added him if he was on your waiver wires. But if you have him, keep Gronk on the bench. He himself said he was brought in to block, and that's what he's doing for Tom Brady. I don't expect this guy to be the Gronk of old in the Patriots uniform. Do not play this guy. You will be disappointed. Now let's go to Evan Ingram. He's had a horrible season. And like Jay said, the Giants just have not seen promising days. Now, I actually believe, unlike Jay, they may actually do well this week because that Dallas defense has been horrible. But with that being said, I cannot put faith in Ingram. He's had a lot of drops. He's had some missed opportunities. It's not all his fault, but some of it is. I'm going to stay far away from him this week and sit him down. He's down this week. And then James Sample. I know you heard me rave about him a few weeks ago, but this guy blew plenty of chances against the Jaguars of all teams. He was wide open. Couldn't even grip his hands around the ball. They actually started looking for a different tight end target during the game. I would stay away from Sample. I would stay away from any Cincinnati tight end. This guy, he may have blown his chances. So I would stay away from him. And that is how you do a TRP 3 up, 3 down. Like we always say, we're here for the role players. Okay? So we may not talk about kickers. We may not talk about defenses because we're here to get you the big numbers fast and quick. Jay, what is your outlook on your team for the week, man, before we get out of here?
Well, I had a horrendous week last week. I actually sat down Terry McLaurin thinking that the matchup wasn't going to be that well. And I sat down Emmanuel Sanders, and he came through with not too many grabs, but he had a touchdown. So this week, I'm suffering at the running back position. My man's Eckler down. Bye weeks this week. We had two teams on byes with Detroit and Green Bay. So I believe I'm gonna go. I'm hoping and praying that Jimmy don't have a quarterback right now, and I'm gonna stick to Terry McLaurin. I'm sorry, I will never let you down again. I'm gonna play OZ. That's what I've been calling him, man. Zacchaeus. I don't know which way you call it. I'm gonna play him in there as my flex. I think I'm going with Debo Samuel. I'm gonna try it again, man. Because Greg Ward, I just don't know about this guy on the Pittsburgh defense. I think I came up winless all week on all my fantasy teams last week. That was I pulled the over 3. And I think one of them I lost by 1 point. So I'm scrapping this week, man. I'm like a dog searching for the bone in the
Oh
field.
man, you may continue to search, brother. I'm not sure, but what I am sure about is my teams. I actually came up 3-0 last week, so I guess that's a 3 up, 3 down for you on a TRP episode. But I actually won a lot last week. I think this week I may take my own advice. I may sit down Josh Jacobs and I may sit down Evans. I'm not quite sure. Evans is actually nursing a injury right now, and he's questionable. He hasn't even practiced this week, so not sure if I'm going to play Evans. But if I don't play those guys, here's my uppers. I'm definitely going to play Mike Davis, and then I'm definitely going to play Robbie Anderson. I'm going keep pounding, baby. Keep pounding. But other than those guys, my lineups are pretty set. I think I'm pretty good on quarterback with Matt Ryan. He has a favorable matchup against the Panthers this week. I think this could be a game, if not a blowout for Atlanta, it will be big points for both teams. You never know with the Falcons. The Falcons. But I'm also playing Russell Wilson. He's in 2 of my leagues. You can't go wrong with Russie. Russ is my guy. I'm going with him. James Robinson is up on my team. Who else may be down? Not quite sure with my ESPN teams. Let me take a quick gander because I do have some injuries and I have some young guys. I know Jefferson for the Vikings. I might have to just go ahead and sit him down. I'm not quite sure about that matchup this week because they're actually going up against Seattle. That may not work out for me, but I may also have to sit down Kareem Hunt. He's not looking too healthy. And then I definitely have to sit down Aaron Jones. He's on a bye, but that would mean I bring up Joshua Kelly. If Philip Lindsay can get out there on the field, that would be a major plus for me. Wow. But again, not quite sure how he'll fit into the rotation with Melvin Gordon in the mix. So it's going to be a tricky week for some of my ESPN leagues. As for my sleeper league, I think I'm sitting pretty good. Not quite sure I'm going up against the top guy in the league, but hey, it's fantasy football. And you got to live the dream, baby. And that's what we do here at the Role Players. We live the dream and we give the dream and we speak the dream. And right now, it's almost time to wake up, baby. It's almost time to wake up. It's been a heck of a Role Players Fantasy Voyage. Again, make sure you catch us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, home of the Role Players, and a plethora of other platforms. Hit us on social media on IG and Twitter. It is the Role Players _player. I'm sorry, the Role _player. And then on Facebook, the Role Players. You know the logo, you know the name, you know the brand. And never forget to submit your ticket for the voyage, baby. It's always cruising. But if you're not cruising, just float. Because that's what we're going to do. Thanks for listening to us. I'm Byron. He's Jay. We are the Role Players. And still away, baby.